Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you guys had a fabulous weekend and are ready to learn today. It is such a beautiful day today. It's a shame we have to be in class. Well, my name is Irma Carbajal. I'm a real estate broker and I'm a real estate investor. And I'm sure all of you guys are here because you want to learn all about what I know about real estate. Well, I started my real estate journey almost a century ago when I was 21 years old in Lubbock, Texas. In 1999, I got a divorce and moved to Dallas. As soon as I settled in my home, I started real estate school at Kaplan University. I received my real estate license. Then a couple of years later, I took another course at Kaplan University to get my real estate broker's license. So it has been a journey for me since I was 21 years old. Well, I bet you're wondering, well, how did I start in real estate investing when you were only 21 years old? Well, that's a good question. Really, it was luck or destiny. I don't know how to answer that question because I really don't know. It's just something that just happened. I've always been interested in real estate. So, hmm, I guess maybe just my thoughts, wanting to be in real estate, just it just happened. And I guess thinking about it, I always had it on my mind and it just happened. I think they say, when they tell you your mind is very strong, believe it. Well, first, let me ask you a couple of questions. Raise your hand if you have bought a home and sold it. Raise your hand if you have bought a home and sold it, and sold one. Okay. How many of you bought more than one and sold it? Okay. Raise your hand if you've bought a home for an investment, to rent or resell. Okay. Good. Okay. So some of you have some experience and some of you, I would say most of you have experience buying and selling a home. Some of you have experience buying and selling investment homes. Okay. Selling or keeping as rental. Well, if you don't mind, would you tell us all how much did you pay for it and what was your profit margin? Okay. Okay. Good. That was really good profit. Okay. And how long did it take you to receive this profit? Okay. Okay. That's all of this just sounds really great. Well, let me start with my first home in my journey. It started with my grandmother's house that I inherited. I wanted to move it from Olton, Texas to Lubbock, Texas because I didn't want to move to Olton, Texas. So I purchased a lot close to my mother and Texas Tech University because I was still going to college at the time. Boy, that journey was a disaster. From getting a city permit to move it and city permits for plumbing, electrical, and the HVAC. On top of all of that, I needed to update it to meet city standards. I guess I should have researched the process before I got started, but I was 21 years old. What did I know? At the time, I thought I knew everything. What do you really know at that age? Not much, tell you that. Looking back, not very much. Once I completed it and kept the city from demolishing it, I gained a great deal of knowledge about that process. Let me tell you, I had no desire to do real estate again. I've always enjoyed real estate, always played Monopoly and did all sorts of stuff with real estate, as far as games. But in reality, it was something, that was a process that I didn't want to do again. Well, after I finished it, my sister and I lived in the home for a couple of years. Then I got married. Of course, my husband did not want to live with me, my sister and I. So there I go again, looking for a reasonable priced home for us to live in because we were both going to college. And when I get to the first house, there was a man standing outside waiting for me. He starts asking me all sorts of questions about where I work and why am I moving. Well, guess what? He is a real estate investor, and there I go again. I told him I was taking real estate courses to become a licensed realtor, and he tells me he was looking for somebody like me. Hmm, wow, destiny, right? He said, "We are looking for a partner to help us sell our properties, and we will pay you 1/3 of the profit, which is anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000." Needless to say, it got my attention, and I started to work with him. After a few homes with him, my husband and I decided to look for some investment homes of our own. So there we go. We start looking for houses. My first investment home was $500, and we remodeled it for $2,000. Then we rented it for $250 a month for 50. We rented it to own for 15 years. It was easy money. I thought, wow, I like this. Our second investment home, we paid $1,500 and for we remodeled it for $3,500. Then we rented it to own for $450 a month for 15 years. Then after that, it was a breeze to get homes. I had a total of 10 homes when we got our first housing community. And you're thinking, wow, what is a housing community? Well, our first housing community was 32 duplexes. And at closing, we even received a check for $7,900. The best part, it was owner financed. The worst part, it only had 3 tenants living there. So the rest of the duplexes had broken windows, broken doors, broken appliances. Some had animals living in it. I bet you're wondering, how did I get that housing community? Well, it was not easy. Well, it was out of desperation to prove to my husband that I could do it. To tell you the truth, I was looking to apply for a part-time job. Part-time property management position, actually, because I could not get a job at an upscale community without experience. I tried to meet with the owner of this community several times, but he turned me away at least 3 times. But I was so persistent because I wanted a paycheck, and I thought this would be an opportunity to get experience that I wanted, because I wanted to manage an upscale property in a nice part of town. So I was finally able to get him to listen to me. Here's what I told him. How about you give me 30 days to prove to you that I can get them rented? And if I get them rented with leases signed for a year, will you give me a job managing your community? He looked at me. I think he was thinking, boy, you're crazy. Well, guess what? Even though he thought I was crazy, he agreed. But after I walked out, I thought to myself, what did I just do? And there I was like, oh, I didn't ask him for any money to remodel them. How am I going to get all these apartments rented? They're dirty, they're trashed out. Oh, I had to go home and think about it and then tell my husband what I just did. And I wasn't real sure I wanted to do that at that time, because I didn't want him to know what I had just done. I wasn't going to get paid for 30 days. Here I was going to remodel these apartments with my own money, and I didn't have any money. Yes, I did have some money coming in from the houses, but it wasn't enough to $3,000-$4,000, or maybe I would assume it was going to cost me $1,500 per duplex to remodel. Maximum was $3,000. And I was, oh my gosh, I was thinking, how am I going to handle this situation? Well, I went and I started applying for credit cards. I went and got a credit card at Sherwin-Williams. I went and got one at Home Depot. I went and got one at Lowe's, at another lumber yard, and just started applying for credit cards. At the time, we had really good credit. We hadn't really bought anything but just our cars and our house that we were renting. So there I go. And then somebody gave me the idea, where am I going to get some workers? I was telling one of my friends I needed to get some workers to come help me clean these places, because I couldn't left stoves and refrigerators that were broken, and I needed to get them off the property. I needed to remove carpet and all these broken windows and get everything out of there. Well, this friend of mine says, hey, I know what, there's some homeless guys on the corner and they're more than willing to work for anybody for a carton of cigarettes and maybe for a night stay at the homeless shelter. And I said, well, how much is that going to cost? They said, $5. $5 and a carton of cigarettes. I could afford that. I had a credit card and I had some money in my pocket. So I said, okay. I went to right by the homeless shelter where they were standing. I said, I need a couple of workers to help me. And sure enough, a couple of them came with me. At the time, I didn't think anything about my life being in danger. I don't know what I was thinking, but I picked them up. We went and cleaned out all these apartments, cleaned them all out, got all the appliances out, put them all out for the trash people to pick up. At least I thought they would have picked them up. Later, I get a notice from the city and says, hey, you need to remove all these appliances. But needless to say, they picked up most of the trash. And there we go. We get the measurements of the windows. We put the windows in because they were made out of wood. So it was something really simple. It wasn't those big metal windows that you have to almost literally replace the frames and the windows. So we got started. There we go. Painting. I went and got buckets and buckets of paint and got 3. The next time I picked up homeless, I picked up 5 of them. And I put 1 in each apartment, gave them 5-gallon of paint, rollers, and I said, get with it. Start patching the holes and start painting. And they all knew how to paint. At least that was the minimum they knew how to do. They started painting. I started putting in windows. They started painting. One of them was really crafty. He knew how to install blinds. He started installing the blinds and just proceeded from there. We started getting them ready. All of a sudden, we started getting people driving by, taking a look, wanting to know how much the rent was. And pretty soon, I had them all rented. And then at the end, I had them all rented. By the end of the month, I had them all rented with a lease, had collected $350 deposit, $350 first month's rent, and I had all that money. I had over, I don't know, about $35,000, maybe a little less, and turned it in, went and took an envelope to the owner, and I said, okay, here's the money, and here's the file folders. I had them in a nice little box, had all the file folders with names and leases, and I literally just made up my own leases. And I didn't know there was an association that controlled that. So I turned them all into him, and he says, wow, you did a fabulous job. And how much money did you say is in here? And I said, well, there's checks, there's money orders, but I pretty much rented all the apartments. And I got rid of the 3 people that were in there, and I rented those 2. And he said, wow, okay. Well, he puts his hand on the envelope, didn't even look at the money, turns around, shoves it across his room. He says, is that enough to pay you back for your expenses? I said, yeah. And I said, well, do I have the job? And he said, well, do you want the apartments? And I looked at him and I was kind of confused, like, you want me? You want to give me the apartments? And I said, like mine, like under my name? He says, yes, I can have the attorney draw up the paperwork next week and you can go to closing and they'll be under your name. I said, now, wait a minute. How much is the mortgage payment going to be? How long are you going to finance it for? And any other strings attached to it? And he said, no, just go to closing. You'll be fine. I've made the arrangements where your payment's going to be, if you have half of the apartments rented, you will be able to make the mortgage payment. The other half is going to be just pure profit. And I started thinking, I was like, oh, okay, that sounds like a good deal. And there I went from my journey, went to housing communities. I also got a second one, and second one was for 26, and the third one was a 50-unit apartment community. But again, I was young. I didn't know any better. So there was a lot of mistakes I made along the line that I'm here to teach you not to make. I don't want you to make the